This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am your host, Edna White, and we have a special series we're doing called Love, Trauma, and Healing. And this is a series that is devoted to Women's Health Month, dealing with everything around relationships. And session one is going to be our lovely Olivia Cook, and she and I are going to be talking about dealing with wounds within our significant relationships. So welcome, Olivia.
It's such an honor to be here, Edna. Thank you so much for having me. I love I don't usually talk about this so much, but it's such an ingrained part of our lives. And I've got some experience dealing with these things. And I've also interviewed plenty of people on these topics. So and helped other people with these topics. So I do like to talk about this. I think it's important when we're talking about these significant relationships that we talk about all the different types of significant relationships that you have. So you've got your parental relationship, your parent-child relationship. And that's a big one because a lot of childhood trauma comes from those relationships. The neglect that you feel if you had even if your parents were there, there's so many side effects that come from that relationship and that bond. So many people cannot let go of their relationship with their parents. Then we've got, our grandparents and, family relationships. Those are significant relationships. Your friendships, those long lasting friendships that you have, those are significant relationships. Of course, your significant other, your wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be, that's a very significant relationship. And, also your working relationships too. If you've been with a company for a long time. Oh, my husband just brought me my water because I needed that so bad. But those are your significant relationships. So I want to give advice on all of those significant relationships.
So we're going to break them up. We're going to break them up and do that. Okay, perfect.
So one thing that is common among all of these relationships is knowing what your boundaries and non-negotiables are, because you are the consistent in every single relationship that you have. So, knowing what you're going to tolerate, and that really comes to finding who you are, what you want. And especially when you're dealing with trauma and, betrayal in these significant relationships, knowing your non-negotiables and those boundaries are extremely important. So first, identify what those are for you. Can you be reached at all times? That's a thing. If you have one of those mothers that is kind of a narcissist, and I know a lot of people throw those things around. A lot of people they self-diagnose, but it's become a buzzword. But let's say that's really your reality. You have a mother that makes it all about her all the time, and you have a toxic bond, but you have that bond, and she'll make you feel guilty. And, that's a specific example, right? What are you going to no longer tolerate? I think knowing what you are going to tolerate, what you're going to have, all of that stuff is so important firsthand. And then that's when you can really start to have some growth. You also, to decide that you even want to stay in a relationship with a person, sometimes the trauma that hurts too bad. Sometimes you're just not in the space to forgive, and that's okay, because forgiveness is a big part of this. And if you cannot maintain a relationship with this person and go through that process of forgiving and rebuilding, then you need to know as far as backing that up. Sorry, I think that I said that misspoke. You need to write the positives and negatives, benefits of this person that you have, and really assess if their positive or negative impact on your life. So if you do believe that you should have this person in your life, you've got to accept whatever it is that they've done. And this can go not just for that toxic mother, this can go for that friend that might have betrayed you. This can go for that significant other that cheated on you. You know, if you have chosen, you know what, I'm going to stick this out, I'm going to maintain this relationship, but I've got to rebuild and repair. You first have to accept that it happened. You have to accept that there's nothing you can do to change it. And there's absolutely, like, it is just what it is. You can't go back in the past. And then you've got to work on forgiving, because you're only hurting yourself. Like, I'm letting you know, like, if you think forgiveness is forgetting, it ain't forgetting. It's, we already talked about accepting first. Accepting don't mean you forget. Okay. So
Right.
forgiveness, though, is really letting that go for you. Like, it's so freeing to just forgive and be like, you know what, let me let that go, because it's baggage. It is baggage. And I'm gonna let you just know, I don't look like what I've been through, but some of the things that I used to say as a teenager, this is kind of bad. And I didn't smoke weed, but I did say I dropped people like a wet dime bag. And it was so quick for me to drop people, you know, like, cut them off. That is not actually helping a relationship. So you really do have to do that other step that I mentioned of writing out those pros and cons, really being certain on this, because a lot of people burn bridges over miscommunication. So making sure that you have clear understanding of what happened, especially if it's like he said, she said, but if somebody actually did something to you, you know what happened, it's a real thing, and you still want to have a relationship with them, you need to accept first, then forgive, and then work and build, and make sure they're committed to rebuilding that trust that they had with you. You have to have some uncomfortable conversations. You're going to have to do that, but I'm telling you, it does amazing things for your relationships. Now, if you do not no longer want this person in your life, all right, you still got to accept. You do. You still have to accept that this is something that happened. Don't get stuck in survival mode and victim mode. A lot of times we do that. We get stuck in our story of they did such and such to me. But you just become that story, and you know, never really overcome what happened. You got to stop living in survival mode. Stop doing the actions that are not benefiting you. Certain things that are survival mode are overworking. I'm a chronic overworker, so this is like not me coming for anybody. I'm just sharing pure examples. You know, really avoiding things when you know that you can't sit alone, like you can't just be at peace. There's something there, and so you think that cutting that person off is going to solve it. It's not. Right. Being clear about your boundaries, having boundaries, setting them, and actually implementing them, it's hard. It's not easy. So even when you do cut this person off, you got to let them know, hey, I can no longer have this relationship with you. Make it clear, because honestly, it might hurt their feelings. Oh, that's another thing. You got to get over the opinions of other people. You really do. You answer to you at the end of the day. And you know, if you're a faith-based person, you answer to God. Everybody else really don't matter. You going on this journey yourself. So if your quality of life is greatly diminished by the person you have in mind, you definitely need to go through the healing process of accepting and forgiving and moving on. Not staying a victim, not staying in your story, being an overcomer, and focus on creating a life that you want. Focus on creating relationships that you want. A lot of times, and I think that a lot of people just don't know how to do this. They have bad friendships, and then they think that all friendships are like that, and they focus on what they don't want in a friendship. Well, I don't want drama. I don't know whatever else it is that people don't want in their relationships, honestly. And I'm going to say that because I focus on what I want. I focus on what feeling I want to feel when I'm with these people. And I've been doing that for years, and I've just attracted nothing but amazing people in my life. And I used to be the person that got ran over and was a people pleaser, and people just took advantage. You know what I'm saying? So that if that was your reality at some point, if that is your reality right now, it doesn't have to be. You can have absolutely amazing giving relationships, but identifying exactly what it is that you want in every relationship in your life, which goes back to that first tip that I was talking about, knowing your boundaries and your non-negotiables. Okay. So I think that's where I want to really start with all of that. If you'd like to ask me any specific questions.
Sure. Okay, there's a question. How do you resolve the outward expressions like affairs, aggression?
Okay. So if somebody's like being physically aggressive with you,
Yeah, and affairs with outside the marriage.
like I said, you got to really stack up the benefits, positives and negatives, the impacts that this person has had on your life. If this is something you want to continue to have, I understand that it's very hard to leave an abusive relationship. I understand that it's there's finances involved and it's not just so easy. So if you're choosing to put up with this, you have to make sure that this person is genuinely committed to rebuilding trust with you. You have to make sure that you've got to have an uncomfortable conversation. You got to ask yourself, am I going to be able to forgive this person? Like I said earlier, is what they did forgivable? And am I going to be able to forgive them while maintaining a relationship with them? Because having a toxic, unhealthy relationship with a person that you don't trust, I wouldn't say I wouldn't want to live my life that way. You really have to think about at the end of your life, how will you look back on your life if you were to die tomorrow? What would you look back on your life and say? Would you say that your life was filled with love and great relationships? Or would you say that you were constantly living in fear and mistrust and you didn't think that anybody had loyalty?
Right. So when you're looking at relationships, everyone has brought in some baggage, or everyone has patterns from what they learned from their family, which you mentioned before. Looking at that and taking your part, because in this, it's a relationship, twofold, threefold, however you want to, say it. Looking at this, you have to start taking your part.
Oh, yes.
So when you're taking your part, and either it's marital or relationship with your family, a friend, or even at work, how do you start to be aware of significant wounds from the past and relating to what you've done in this relationship, to just find out or be clear that this is what I brought into the relationship. I need to get rid of that.
One way that I think that this helps a lot of people is start listening to the story you're telling yourself. And really look at it from an outside point of view. Is that really how that happened? And start taking some personal accountability. A lot of people lack that. A lot of people think that they are, they live in that victimhood state, that everything happens to them and they did nothing. They did not. No, that ain't the case. You did something. You at some point in some time, you can't live in this world without doing something. All right. Somebody, and I think it's so important to have those conversations. Be willing to, it takes a lot of emotional maturity to have a truly honest relationship with people, to be able to take criticism, and to be able to hear something and take it with only a grain of salt, understanding where that person's coming from too, if they're saying it while they're angry, not wearing emotions on your shoulder, that all of those things take doing personal development and work. I'm not like, I don't, and learning from your lessons. So spending time being reflective on your life, that to me is the quickest way to actually start getting some self-awareness and looking at your situations that way, because nobody's innocent, and there's two, that it takes two to tango.
So you talked about awareness, and some people know that, like you said, is a buzzword. how do you understand what awareness is by, its description, and how do you embrace the repair process?
When it comes with awareness and authenticity, um, because that's also one of those other things that's a buzzword that we just love to use and never actually really understand. They think a lot of people think being in their authentic self is telling people off and then just walking away. No, it's actually really letting your ego go to the side a little bit, dropping that pride a little bit. And for me, with that self-awareness too, I have to let go of the pride. Like
Well, that's
getting
good.
sitting down and really actually looking at the situation as what it is. Like, what is really going on in your life? Not not in a sense that you are coming from a victim mentality, not coming from I'm going to show this to somebody someday mentality, but the reality, the true reality of how you're perceiving it. And then try looking at that from a different point of view.
Hmm. And what about the repair process? Really embracing, I think you said it, maybe you said it, is an authenticity, um, and embracing the repair process, not only for that person, but also for you. So to do like check systems, am I right?
Yeah, you got to start holding yourselves accountable for things. Um, I know that I'm one of those people that if somebody tells me what to do and holds me accountable, like that's why I think coaching works so well for me, like even having a personal trainer, then I'm great. I'm great. And I think a lot of people are like that too. I think a lot of people, when they have a set plan, when you've got a significant wound, significant trauma, I think it's so important to get a third party's opinion. I really think it's important to go to therapy. Um, if your relationship is if you believe that it's going to be beneficial to stay in this relationship with this person, then it's worth investing the time to seek proper counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the professionals. Like I'm one of those, I'm a big component of going to the professionals, and seeing what you specifically need each other. Invest time in doing books, invest time in getting to know each other. So taking personality tests, knowing each other's love languages, knowing what really helps you guys both succeed. Like for me in my marriage, like we started practicing having a conscious marriage a few years ago. And that's one that we forget what society says our marriage is supposed to be like. But we really work on each other as an individual. Like, okay, what
Mm-hmm.
really helps me go? How am I gonna, be super successful in this direction while also supporting you in gaining your success as well? What are
Mm-hmm.
your triggers? What how do you like to be spoken to? Me, I'm a very direct person. If you want to tell me something, don't beat around the bush, get straight to the point. And especially if I'm mad, like just tell me what it is. My husband
Uh-huh.
likes to just like, oh well, this and this and beat the dead horse. I'm telling you. So I'm saying this because we're continually a work in progress and accepting that it's never going to be perfect and it's always going to be ever changing, but a continual work in progress. Y'all are going to have amazing times, y'all are going to have hard times, but knowing that you're going to be able to withstand those hard times together, um it takes getting to truly know and understand each other.
That's marvelous. Well, Olivia Cook, I really appreciate what you have taught today, because that's what you're really doing, is you're teaching today. And it has been, very eye-opening, and I hope that our audience is going to really dig their heels in and really get into this with working with their trauma, because we, like you said, we hear the buzzwords, yeah, and they're there, but we really don't know what they mean. And that's the object of Love, Trauma, and Healing, this series, is to really understand what it really is. And I love what you said about your relationship with your husband, is that you guys get into yourselves and not fall into what society means, and that's a good thing, and making that your relationship not what everyone says it is, but what you two say it will be. And that's wonderful because we know that working with trauma, with any intimate relationship, and friendships are intimate. Let me tell you,
They
they're
are.
intimate as well. And relationships, marital are very intimate. Even sibling relationships are intimate. Because you're
Mhm.
telling each other things. And you can violate that trust. But with what you've just told us, with the blueprint of what you just shared with us all, you can truly dig in and make a conscious effort to be that good part of the relationship. Because what you want in a relationship, you have to be. You have to be that. So if
Yes.
you want someone like that, you got to be that. You truly got to be that, and that's really important. And we thank you for this portion, because this is not it. This is not the end. But tell our audience what your podcast is about. Where we can find it. Give us a lowdown on your podcast.
Absolutely. So my podcast is The Empowered Woman, Badass and Unfiltered. I share stories from women all over the world. I am currently recording for my season 11 of my podcast. I've had it for my seasons are just 3 months, and it's been so life-changing. I've had absolutely amazing guests, and I just help women in so many, well, the world. I
Yeah.
have men on my podcast too, but I talk about personal development, mindset, healing,
Hmm.
business tips, money,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
things for that female entrepreneur, that go-getter, that
Hmm.
just loves advice. So I
Yeah.
talk to specialists all the time, and I feel so honored that I get to talk to these amazing people.
That's great. And where can they find it again?
It is on everywhere you listen to podcasts. It is on
Okay.
iHeartRadio. It's on iCloud. It's on all those, not iCloud, sorry, Apple Podcasts,
Okay.
Spotify,
iTunes. Yeah.
Google,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Okay.
YouTube. I have the videos on YouTube on my channel, Life Hacks with Liv.
Okay. Wonderful. So we thank you, Olivia Cook, for being here today on Love, Trauma, and Healing Series, Session 1. We'll see you all next time.